Hi, I am Ria Mehta. I am the president of the Empower Club. At Empower, our goal is to inspire and enable women in technology and various other fields. Our intention is to know successful women in these fields and learn from their journey, challenges they encountered, how they overcame those challenges, and lessons learned along the way. Today, we have the honor of welcoming Ms. Mansi Surutwala. She is a mother and a remarkable technology leader who is known for creativity and empowerment in technology. With many years of experience, her commitment to empower her teams towards success with passion and determination while championing collaboration in every step of its way is commendable. Having spearheaded transformative AI projects and navigated complex technological landscapes, Ms. Surutwala brings a wealth of experience and wisdom to the table. Her insights into the ever-evolving world of IT and AI promise to enlighten and inspire us all. Without further ado, let's delve into the fascinating journey and invaluable insights. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to the remarkable leader, Ms. Mansi Surutwala. Welcome, and it's lovely to have you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ria, so much for having me on this call.
Sounds good. So let's jump right into the questions. Firstly, in relation to AI, I think a big question that comes up is with regards to ethical principles. So with that said, what ethical principles do you believe should guide the development and deployment of AI systems?
That's an interesting first question itself, because I think it goes back to the core principle that AI, for whatever reason that was built or getting built or designed, it is for it is designed to benefit humanity. It is for our well-being. It is in no way trying to supposed to harm us or in any way sort of replace us or anything like that, because there's a lot of discussion about that piece also, right? Like, hey, my job is going to go away to AI and things like that. That's not the reason why we have AI systems designed and implemented in so many different sectors of the sectors of our day-to-day lives, not just work, but just everywhere. That's the first core principle, that just bare minimum. Second is basically having some sort of fairness or non-discrimination. That's basically making sure that there are no biases set into an AI model. There is no, it doesn't cater to just one section of the society or one population, just one community in a general population. It is there to sort of serve everybody equally, with no bias. That's another piece that we need to be um, aware of, and more importantly, work very very hard and diligently to make sure that that doesn't happen, because of the way AI is just it's just like a it's just like a it's just it's like an organism that just keeps growing. Right now, if we don't curb it or if we don't monitor it, that might just grow in whichever one direction. So that matters a lot when it comes to ethical principles. Other is just basically just making sure that there is transparency, there is some sort of understanding of the data and the kind of data that is being used and things like that. So how this AI system works, why is it doing it, the things that it's doing, what information it needs, how is it processing it, and what output it sends out. All that is important to understand, just in general, from a perspective to even build the next all the other next AI systems. So I think these are some of the core principles I feel that we should be aware of, and work towards whenever we are trying to deploy or develop any kind of a new AI setup.
Yeah, I think it's really important and nice how you kind of divided it up into sections of things that are important. Actually, speaking of bias and fairness and also transparency, how can we ensure that AI systems are free from bias and treat everyone fairly? And also, with regards to transparency, what steps can we take to make AI systems more transparent and understandable to non-experts? Because personally, as someone who doesn't necessarily have a lot of experience in AI, I kind of just imagine like robots, invading the world and that sort of thing. So
Agreed. And I think you've asked me a very loaded, like a few pointer question. So let's break it down, right? First things first, I think the comment that you made, that the robots are there and they're taking over my life and things like that. So let's think about it, like, because AI is just a sort of a cumulative evolution of what has happened so far, right? We start out, let's say, from electricity, telephone, and then we went into just computers, and then those big machine mainframe computers. Then it went into more on the internet and the software development, things like that, and then came cloud computing, and now AI is just the more enhanced version of it. But the point is that everything is based on something that was built already. So the principles, the core setups, the core concepts is still going to be the same. It's just that how it has been represented or how it is packaged. So that is important. So none of the 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 biases or unfairly, that piece was always the core piece that comes out from all our discussions or all our these evolution of all these technologies. So talking about bias, right, like how do we treat, how do we make sure that everything is all everybody's treated fairly by AI? Most important thing that I feel is, and just my background is in databases, so I work with data a lot, and I feel that data is a very key component when it comes to AI, because it's what is getting fed into the system, and that's what it's processing. So it's like if you put junk in, junk out situation that you don't want. You want to make sure that you have the right data, you have the data which is representative of all sections. It's not again catering to just one section or one community, and that data is inclusive of everything that is being processed by the AI system. Some other things that we can do is making sure that there is there's a continuous iterative process of fine tuning it, the AI model, or anything like whatever the processing model that it's following, that is it going in the right direction, is it capturing the right information or the right patterns in that data that it's processing, and then making insights out of it, and more importantly, the human part of it is going to be making sure that we have not just a tech person making decisions when it comes to an AI design. There's also non-technical folks who are experts or who are subject matter experts in their own field. So that could be lawyers, artists, doctors, whoever it is. Because if that AI system is being used by somebody who's not going to be purely technical, because us technical folks, we think it in a very different manner. We are like, okay, we just want to get the latest, the fastest, the bestest technology out there. But that could not be true for somebody who is going to use it, right? So there is already, you must be aware of all the conversations that are happening for artists, that how do we make sure that our voice, our names are not being used in a wrong way, or in a way that is harming our reputation or our my profession or anything like that, right? So those things come into picture. So having that person or that subject matter expert on the floor with you, making those decisions, or at least giving guidance or inputs into it, makes a lot of difference. So that I feel is a few ways we can make it more users fairly, and being without bias. And then I think you asked about being transparent or something like that. Is that what it
Yeah.
is? Yeah. Okay, so even with transparency, it goes back to the point being that what does that system is doing, like how is that system helping mankind? What is it what is it created for? What data is it using? How much data is it using? uh, when is it using? Who is using that data? All that is important. And on top of that, that processing part, like the algorithm part, that if I give information about Ria Mehta, how is that information being processed? The date of birth is processed very differently than, let's say, a social security number, for example, or your sleep patterns, or your going for a walk or going for a jog patterns. All that information is captured, right, from our phones, from our wherever apps that we are using now. In a way, if I take an example of a fitness app, in your fitness app, you don't need to provide, or you don't need your social security number added over there, right? But sometimes when they get all that information, they get everything. But that's how we basically should make sure that that transparency is there, to make sure that data that is not needed is not being fed into it.
Yeah, definitely. I really like the part, especially where you talk about how it's like a constant process and not just like a one and done kind of thing. You kind of have to refine how, your AI model and system works. I think that's really important to understand as well. Switching gears a little bit, let's talk about accountability. Say you have an AI system and the AI system causes harm or fails to perform. Who should be held accountable?
Well, that's a tricky question, honestly, because there is so much nuance around it. There is just so much. It's so complex, and so many different aspects of it comes into picture. So um, I'll give you the example. I'm sure you and your teammates would be aware of Black Mirror, the show, right? I'm a newbie Black Mirror viewer, so I have just started watching it, and in that there is this one episode about the streaming channel uh, streaming somebody's day-to-day life, and they keep it's like everything is happening in real time, something like that. And in that conversation came into picture, that who is accountable for somebody's reputation coming at stake, or somebody's information is getting leaked and things like that. And there is no one answer or two answers or any right answer or wrong answer, but the idea is that everybody needs to have an equal accountability into it, because in that particular episode the way it was like, oh, it's the streaming channel that needs to take the blame for it. Well, at the same side, the user signed off on some agreement without even looking at it, which is what all of us do when we are signing up to a new app, without looking. We don't even know the first word of the agreement. We don't even look that much. So it's easily, technically, legally, it is responsibility of the user also. And then comes the lawmakers and the policymakers, and those people come into picture, because how was it possible that something like this is even created and then brought into picture, right? So it is not just one answer that fits here. It is going to be a collective responsibility, and just the conscious effort that needs to be made by the company that is developing such an AI system, making sure that they are being ethical, they are being legal, everything. Then the users who are going to use it, because they need to be aware what data that they are feeding into it, and how that data can be represented and also misrepresented. And then obviously the lawmakers who would be taking it at a macro level and say that, yeah, this is allowed, this is not allowed, or something on those lines. So it is an evolving area, Ria, trust me. I mean, that is a conversation that we also keep having it among ourselves, just as a discussion point. But at this point, anybody and anyone who is even aware or touching that particular AI system should be held accountable. That's my personal 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Also, like talking about how the customer themselves is also responsible because, a lot of us don't look at like the privacy and terms of conditions and all that stuff when really like that's probably the thing that we should be looking at before, signing up for any app or website or anything like that. Um, you talk a little bit about lawmakers and how they look at these things from like a macro level almost. And that kind of leads into my next question, which is what role should government regulation play in ensuring responsible AI development and use?
Um, yeah, I think they will have to play a bigger part into it, whether it's getting the right ethical guidelines or standardizations of what is allowed, what is not allowed. There could be some frameworks that are put into picture, like any other thing, right? Like, for example, even at some point of time, there was, in the financial sector, we have these SEC standards, we have healthcare, we have HIPAA compliance, we have these compliance regulations that people adhere to, that companies adhere to, no matter what. And that is something that at some point of time the government needs to catch up with the technology, with the growing faster technology, and establish some of these guardrails around with it. Second piece would be, again, going back to the biases, making sure that one community or one section is not getting targeted, because that's another piece that a government or a policymaker can bring about change, can bring about that influence. And then again, that ensuring that there's a continued auditing or transparency that comes from the companies, because the companies can be sometimes very insular and it's almost like a black box. But how do we get that information away from them is only sometimes, I mean, the ideal situation would be that they would give us that information no matter what. But sometimes government has to step in and say that, okay, yes, we need this information or this data about this particular AI system, or how does Siri works, for example, or how does Alexa works, or whatever it is. So yeah.
Definitely. I think all the points that you brought up are really interesting about that. I think that, yeah, government regulation is a really big part of it. Switching gears just a little bit, to what we were talking about previously regarding safety, what measures can be implemented to ensure that AI systems are safe and secure from any sort of cyber attacks?
uh, from cyber attacks, I think it goes back to the point that I was making, that the way we have built on existing older previous generation of technology, it's the core principle stays the same. So for example, um, security protocols, encryption, all that is still going to like at this moment. We know, and simple example again, if you log into a website which is an HTTPS, is very different from an HTTP website, because you have that security protocol on top of it, you have that encryption on top of it. It's the same thing. If we could do it on a website, it's the same thing when we do it on an app, and it will be same thing when we do it on an AI model also, that what data is getting transferred, or whatever data is transferred, is that encrypted, not encrypted. The piece itself is robust enough, which is more like from a authorization or authentication perspective, like, are you the right person logging into the system? uh, like it cannot be Mansi logging in as Ria. There has to be some way to verify that, okay, it is Ria logging in as Ria, and she has the right privileges, she has the right controls to make sure that you have the control to share the data, not share the data, how it is going to work out, right? Like as I mentioned, for a for a for a for a fitness app, you don't need to share your social security number, and that should be your prerogative information, right? You have that control. Even the control that we have on our systems, right? Like, um, should I allow this particular app to have access to my camera? Do I need that? Yes, I need it for a Zoom call, but do I need it for another like a streaming application or something like that? I don't need to have that. So those are some of the questions that we can ask, and we can just make sure that they have those guardrails and those security features enabled. Making sure that there is enough testing happening, like there is enough boot like really brute force testing happening, that there is no attacks happening as such, or some sort of a like a distributed this attack which could basically just harm everybody at the same time or impact everybody at the same time. Those are some of the things that go back to our principles when it's like just normal IT security practices that we should be using it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it does. I think the idea of like not just testing, but like strongly testing systems, especially maybe like multiple times and things like that, is always important to make sure that they can prevent from any sort of attacks and things like that. So I think it's really important that you mentioned that. Um, Technology, like these days, like when we hear about what's it called? Like we hear about climate change, global warming, things like that. We know that technology takes up a lot of energy, right? Whether it be like, fossil fuels used to actually design any of the computers, phones, like any kind of technology that we use, or even, using them electricity itself. Um, how do you think the environmental impact of AI systems can be managed, particularly regarding energy consumption and resource use?
Um, okay, so that again is something that is a more macro level work that can be done at the company, whoever is supporting, or whoever is getting the AI system out in the public for public consumption, right? Because in the end, it's just a bunch of machines doing the processing. Like it's doing petabytes, terabytes, not even terabytes, I would say petabytes, exabytes of data that is getting processed on a daily basis. So there are ways which we can, where the companies can make sure that their carbon footprint is reduced, or they're at least they're aware, and they're being very efficient, energy efficient, sustainable about what they are doing and how they are putting it out there. So first things first would be very basic, just the kind of hardware. Get the latest and the greatest hardware, which is more efficient, which has more light features, rather than being very asset heavy, very just bringing down the CPU consumption very much. The next being using green data centers. I'm not sure if customers, if your audience is aware, but there are these many data centers. Even all these cloud providers are trying level best to become more and more green, becoming more and more, reducing their carbon footprint as much as they can. I know Amazon has a goal, I think by 2026 or something like that, to be carbon free, and or at least have a reduced levels of carbon footprint and things like that from all their data centers. So those are important. Getting renewable energy sources to do this processing helps a lot. And at our level, if we are using any models or anything like that, like AI models, try to use the one that is already out there, which has already been fine-tuned, rather than you reinventing and creating a new model from scratch. Going through the processing, going through all the fine-tuning it, making it better and better and better. If there's already something that is out there helping you serve the same requirement, use that. And yeah, that these are some of the ways we can just make sure that it is going to be more of a macro level, like at the company level, and then somewhat at the individual level.
Yeah, I think that's a really great response. I think like thinking about it at a macro level, because companies, of course, like they consume and use the most energy in comparison to like individual level. I think that's also really important. Last but not least, let's talk a little bit about human AI collaboration. Like you said before, people always think that AI is gonna like take their jobs, because realistically it can do like a lot of things that humans are doing right now, right? But always like faster and more efficiently, making them the better option against like, any other human, or at least that's what people think, right? But as you also mentioned before, AI systems are actually meant to enhance our capabilities rather than, harming them and taking away people's jobs. But that being said, a lot of us don't know how that actually is going to work. So how can we design AI systems effectively to collaborate with us, enhance our capabilities rather than replace them?
So again, I think it goes back to our first initial conversation, right? Like, to understand. So if as a developer, if I am going to build or design an AI system, I should also think of as what my target audience is going to be doing it. So as a user, what do I want this AI system to do for me? That's the first thing. So going back to the point that it's there to benefit humanity, not replace us. That's the first piece that we are trying to say. So as a developer, I need to understand that am I do this piece of job, that or task that this AI system is going to do, is that in addition, or is that in sort of in support of what the human already does, or is it something that already human does and it's trying to replace it? So that's the differentiation that people need to understand. Secondly, I think people or developers need to, I mean, we all know that there are some strengths that AI has, and there are some strengths that human intelligence has, that we cannot replace that. Like, for example, AI can process, again, petabytes of data. It can do pattern recognition. But what do we do with that? It's processing, but how that processing is going to help me or benefit me? A simple example, right? If for your high school, if we look up all the apps of, or sorry, Google Maps of all your students together, it clearly shows that, okay, between 8 and 9, for example, we see uh, an an increase in traffic um, coming to this particular building, which is your high school campus. Correct? Simple. And again, at 3 to 4, it's seeing that there is a traffic going out of this building from again 3 to 4 in that same time in your Google Maps. Now that's a pattern. We see it Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday. For some reason that doesn't happen, but Monday to Friday that happens. Now, if you think from a computer perspective, it's just seeing that, okay, I see this particular landmark, just one coordinate is seeing thousands of cars coming in, thousands of cars going in at specific time. Now it's the human, and this is a very crude example, but it's the human who can say that, yes, that happens because there's a school running there, and the school is between this time and this time, and it doesn't function on Saturdays and Sundays. That's why this is happening. So it goes back to that conversation that, they can, AI systems can process that data, can find recognition, pattern recognition of that data, but to add that contextual information to it, to add that decision making to it, all that is done by humans. So we are the ones who are doing the insights analysis, and that is important to understand. So that's one piece. To when we're designing the AI, we have to think of it from, how is it complementing my job or my work, rather than how is it replacing my work. That's, I hope that explains that. The next things are going to be, making sure, again, going back to, how transparent AI is, how, what is it doing, how is it processing that data to give me this recommendation or to give me this particular output. How did that happen? And we can play around with different AI models. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but there are different AI models that are out in the market right now. Some of them are free. We can just, you plug it in which AI model you use. Like if you go to ChatGPT, you can choose a different model, and you will get a different response, or a similar response, but still a different response for a question that you ask. And that helps our understanding also, that what is it trying to do. So keeping the processing, the algorithm of it as transparent to humans as possible will help us also trust it, that, okay, this is what it's doing, and accordingly we'll figure out what else we can do to make ourselves more productive, more better opportunities and things like that. So yeah, I mean, these are some things that we should work about. And then again, humans always be a part of the conversation. It's not something that it can just function on its own. It's, at least we have not reached that stage yet, and it's going to be a while before you reach that stage. So at this moment, humans in the mix is always going to be helpful in gearing it towards the right processing.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I like the analogy that you brought up between, like looking at it like pattern wise, especially the example you gave with high school. Kids are flooding it at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. They're leaving at 3 a.m., not 3 a.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., that sort of thing. So
Yep.
yeah, that was really nice. That's all I have. That was the last question. I wanted to say thank you from myself, but also from Empower. I think all of the responses you give were really insightful and interesting, and will hopefully be really useful to people who watch this video.
I'm happy to, and thank you so much for calling me here. I went through your Empower Club, and I think it's a great initiative that you have in your school and that you are leading it. It's always good to have more girls in technology, and the more we demystify technology, I think that's going to help us, whether it's AI or whether it's whatever new funny thing that comes in world. But yeah, I mean, congratulations on having that leadership stand in your Empower Club. Yeah.
Thank you.